Bo Nickel got embarrassed against Renner de Ridder. That yet again marks another weekend where a prospect has gotten fraud checked. Today, I'm going to be talking about these fighters who have gotten absolutely exposed for being frauds and completely fraud checked. Then, after that, we're going to be talking about the thin margin of fighters that are still established prospects and they have not been fraud checked. And then finally, we're going to be talking about some of the guys who are just slowly actually becoming prospects and who are the people to watch out for in the future. So firstly, let's talk about the fighters who have gotten fraud checked this year. The first pay-per-view of 2025, we seen one of the biggest name value prospects in the UFC take his first loss, Paxton Talbot, dude. Paxton Talbot got ragdolled by Raoni Barcelos for 3 rounds. It was a really dominant performance by Raoni Barcelos. And Paxton Talbot, apparently, people were saying that Paxton Talbot, oh, bro, he has insane jiu-jitsu. He has great wrestling. He's grappling. He's underrated. And then, obviously, this fight came around and he got embarrassed. So, buddy, you need to work on your wrestling, your grappling, because you can have good striking. We see a lot of guys who just have amazing striking, but zero ground game, and they get fraud checked. So Paxton Talbot, go back to the drawing board, work on your grappling, of course. And then fast forward about a month later, we did see Shara the Bullet Magomedov go against Michael Venom Page, and Michael Venom Page was literally just trick-shotting this guy. I mean, it was a very easy performance from MVP. He was just clearly better, and I don't understand, dude. MVP literally just did a hit and run. He went up to middleweight just to fraud check one of the UFC's biggest name value prospects, and now he's going back down to welterweight. So, I don't really know what the point of this matchup was. And Shara Magomedov, this guy was really on the verge of retiring after this performance, so it was a really sad loss for Shara Magomedov. And a couple months later, we've seen Gregory Rodriguez get embarrassed by Cannonier. Maybe this wasn't as bad as the other one because Gregory Rodriguez actually knocked down Cannonier a couple times, but Cannonier came back and he got the W after that. And a little bit later, we did lose Slickmick Parkinson. I hate calling Mick Parkin an actual prospect, but dude, Mick Parkin was undefeated before he took the L to Mas and Taibita. Usually, when you're a young prospect, dude, you do want to be beating Mas and Taibita when you're coming up the rankings of heavyweight. And obviously, it was a split decision. It was a close fight. A lot of people thought Mick Parkin won, including me. But the judges didn't see it that way. And another prospect yet fraud checked, dude. And then just last weekend, we did lose Carlos Prates, dude. We lost CP. Oh, it was so sad watching CP just get embarrassed by the Ian Gary. But yeah, dude, it was a pretty bad loss. I mean, he just was not doing enough output against Ian Gary, and I feel like we see that so many times. Strikers just relying on that one punch to win them a fight. Meanwhile, their opponent is just being active. They're popping the jab. They're keeping the leg kick. It's just really devastating that we have a lot of fighters who fight like this. Carlos Prates in that 4th and 5th round, we've seen a little bit of a sign of life. And if Carlos Prates can fight how he did in that 4th and 5th round in just the rest of his UFC career, then he'd still probably be good. But yeah, dude, and obviously, just this weekend, we did see Bot Nickel, dude. Bot Nickel, literally probably one of the most hyped up UFC prospects ever. I'm not saying he's one of the best prospects ever, but in terms of hype, dude, this guy was on the main card of UFC 300. The main card of UFC 300 against Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage, dude, I'm not even joking. I mean, Bo Nickel, this weekend, it was kind of funny, dude. He got a knee to the sternum. He sat down like a good boy, dude. Absolutely humbled. Cut him, because this guy sucks. Dana cut him. I'm joking, of course, but it does feel good to see someone so cocky just get embarrassed like that. And, yeah, dude, it was really satisfying. But if you want to count these two as well, Umar Nurmagomedov and Tatiana Suarez lost, and I don't really count them as prospects because they got it in the title fight, dude. If you get to the title, you're not a prospect anymore, dude. You're a contender. And there's a clear difference, Those are the guys we lost, dude. Those are some of the most established prospects that we have lost, gotten fraud checked. But now, let's talk about the established prospects that we still have. First off, we're going to be talking about Gene Silva and Mauricio Ruffy. Obviously, Carlos Prates got fraud check. I just talked about that. And Kyle Brawl, he's not really a prospect, dude. He's more of a contender now. So, Gene Silva and Mauricio Ruffy, they're not even top 10 in the respective divisions. I mean, these guys, Gene Silva is a certified. He's so good, dude. He's so good. Who does that to Drew Dober on a week notice up a division? Not a lot of people do that. Credit to Gene Silva, dude. He's a beast. And Mauricio Ruffy, I know he knocked out King Green. Literally everybody does that to King Green. But, I mean, he didn't struggle at all in that fight, and he just trick-shotted King Green in a way. So the Fighting Nerds are obviously still some of the most established prospects we have in the UFC, even though we lost one last weekend. Very unfortunate. The next next guy, he's pretty much a fighting nerd. Michael Morales, dude. He has a big fight coming up against Gilbert Burns. He's decently well-rounded. And let's see if Gilbert Burns is still good enough to be a welterweight contender. Spoiler alert, he's not. But, you know, hopefully Michael Morales can get that done. He's undefeated. So hopefully we don't see yet again another fraud check to Gilbert Burns, because Gilbert Burns is literally like 50 years old at this point. If you're up and coming in the welterweight division, you do not want to be losing to 50-year-old Gilbert Burns. Let's just say that. And the next established prospect that we got, dude, I'm really high on this guy, Joshua Van, dude. Joshua Van is so good. I've talked about this before, dude. But I am so high. I'm so high on Joshua Van, dude. The kid's striking is elite. The kid's cardio is elite. This kid's decision making is a little bit iffy, but he's just so technical, dude. His boxing is some of the best in the UFC, let alone the flyweight division. People don't talk about it, but he's so young. He fights like he's a veteran. He's literally a Max Holloway regen. Joshua Van, he's going to be a future champion, dude. I promise you that. The flyweight division is a very weak division. A couple more wins for Joshua Van, and who knows? This kid could literally be fighting for a title. That's how weak the flyweight division is. I mean, who? Steve Erceg. Steve Erceg was 3-0 in the UFC, coming off a win to Matt Schnell, and he got a title shot. So who's to say Joshua Van might not get a title shot, dude? That's pretty crazy. The next guy I want to talk about is going to be Joel Alvarez, dude. This kid, he was supposed to fight BSD next weekend, or this weekend now, I guess technically, but he pulled out. The kid pulled out. I was really excited for that fight, dude. I was more excited for that fight than the main event. I was gonna make a whole video on it just dedicated to that. And Joel Alvarez pulled out. Now BSD doesn't have an opponent. I've seen maybe Mateusz Rebecki could step in, I guess. But we'll see if anything gets announced or if that fight will be completely scrapped off the card. But yeah, Joel Alvarez obviously had like 24 wins, all 24 coming from finish. He's only lost to like the elite guys. I know he had a loss to Arman Tsarukyan and someone else in the UFC, but this guy, he's got that Spanish flair. You know, Ilia Topuria is in his corner. I'm joking. I don't really know if he is, but Joel Alvarez, this kid's good. He's well-rounded, striking, submissions, everything. He's got everything. And the final guy we got is someone who just recently broke into the rankings. Zang Minyang. I mean, I don't really know how to consider someone a prospect. He is a prospect, though, because 19 wins, 19 finishes, 19 first-round finishes. The kid's good. Obviously, he's 19-6 now after that win against Anthony Smith. And, well, he does what you usually want to see a prospect do to Anthony Smith. Absolutely demolish him. Make Anthony Smith crawl into a ball like he usually does whenever he faces any adversity. You know, I don't know how the guy got the Lionheart nickname, because this guy does not have a Lionheart, but that's not the point. Zang Minyang, he's really good, dude. I actually don't know if that's true. I'm not that high on Zang Minyang. He's fought bums in the regional scene. But, you know, Anthony Smith, it's a decent win. I know we're in 2025, but it's okay win for Zang Minyang. And the light heavyweight division isn't exactly the most stacked division in the UFC. So, Zang Minyang, you're an established prospect, buddy. You're here. And that's really all I could think of, dude. I mean, sure, there's some lower league guys, but in terms of the top prospects we have coming up, I'm talking about, like, top 15, top 10, top 13 through 15, those guys who have just made it into the rankings. These are really the only top fighters we have. And yeah, we're low on prospects, dude. So many fraud checks. I don't know what's going to happen for the UFC in its future, but it's not looking good. But now, let's talk about the guys that no one really knows about, the unestablished prospects, dude. The first guy I want to talk about, Malcolm Wmaker, dude. This guy, he knocked out that Cameron Saenz guy. I think that's his name, Cameron Saenz, the Dricus du Plessis regen. He knocked him out. And Malcolm Wmaker, dude, this guy just looks tough. I mean, I don't mean to glaze, but look at this guy. Tell me he doesn't have flair. Obviously, insane knockout power. He was on Dana White's Contender Series, knocked that guy out too. Malcolm Wmaker, dude, what a debut to make. And this guy's probably gonna be something in the future. He's 8-0 undefeated. He might be 9-0 now. I don't really know. But Malcolm Wmaker, this kid's good. The next guy I want to talk about, Amazbek Beakov. I think that's how you say this guy's name. Or is it Amazbek Beakov? I don't really know how to say this guy's name. He reminds me of a little bit of Ebel Aslam type of guy, you know? He's his second fight in the UFC. He's coming off 2 first-round KOs, middleweight division, yet again another stacked division. So you see a lot of these prospects, they're not really in that stacked a division. You look at the lower level of middleweight, we have guys like Michel Pereira, who were literally just ranked last week somehow. Abus Magomedov is ranked, dude. I don't know how. So the lower end of middleweight is not a very strong division, and I can see a marauder like Amazbek Beakov breaking into that top 15. The next guy, I think he's also in the middleweight division, Marco Tullio, dude. Marco Tullio, he's coming off a win at UFC 314 to Sean Gore, I think the guy's name is. But, you know, I think Marco Julio, he's like 2-0 in the UFC. He went through the Contender Series, but this kid's good, dude. He's well-rounded. I mean, I feel like he's so well-rounded for every prospect, but he's got that Brazilian flair. I'm just repeating the same things for every prospect. But Marco Julio, he looked good in his last performance. I think he's like has like a good finish rate, you know. Something's showing me this guy has like 9 finishes already in his 14 fights. But let's move on to the next guy. Changho, dude. Changho, he's coming off a win, a dominant performance to Cortavius Romanius, the guy with the blackest name in the UFC. But Changho, dude, his nickname is literally the Korean Khabib or something like that. I know he has Khabib in his name, but he fights like it, dude. His pressure is so overwhelming. He's so dominant, dude. People forget, man, Cortavius Romanius, he's a decorated wrestler, and Changho just obliterated him, dude. He was pouring elbows on him. His ground and pound is elite. This guy literally is Khabib 2.0. He fights like Khabib. Changho, be on the lookout for this guy, because this guy could become a prospect in a couple years and even a contender, dude. Who knows? The next guy I do want to talk about is Martin Budet. Why is no one talking about I can't even pronounce this guy's name. Martin Budet. You know, a lot of people were talking about Talison Teixeira, who's like 2-0 in the UFC. I mean, I get this guy has all first-round finishes, but I'm not here to talk about Talison Teixeira, dude. I'm here to talk about Martin oh my gosh, this guy's name is literally impossible to sound out. Martin Budet. He's 6-1 in the UFC. 6-1, and somehow this guy's not ranked in the weakest division in the UFC. I have no idea. The UFC ranks like random blob heavyweights who are coming off 1 win, but somehow Martin Budet isn't ranked after coming off like 2 straight wins. His only loss in the UFC is this to the blob Shamil Gaziev, so obviously that's like a defendable loss, dude. Everyone loses to Shamil, and yeah, dude, he should definitely be ranked. Martin Budet is someone to look out for in the heavyweight division. I mean, when I say someone to look out for in the heavyweight division, I mean, this guy could be a top 10 guy at best, but yeah, dude, the final guy I want to talk about, it's going to be my Mexican brother. He recently fought at UFC Mexico. Manuel Torres, dude. I mean, I know he knocked out Drew Dober, and basically everyone knocks out Drew Dober in this point in his career, but Manuel Torres, dude, this guy was running like a 4-fight first-round knockout streak before he ran into Ignacio Bahamondes, and Bahamondes was just a horrible matchup for him. But Manuel Torres, dude, this guy, I think he's like 16-3 now. Give him a ranked opportunity, or at least like do a fight against Rabetsky. That would be a war of a fight. And yeah, dude, that is my unestablished prospects, guys, to look out for. This is a video just dedicated after the loss of Bo Nickel, because Bo Nickel is an absolute fraud now, and the UFC is really low on prospects, dude. And I think the reason that the UFC is running out of so many prospects is because they just fast-track these guys. I mean, Bo Nickel, he's a perfect example, dude. This guy was like 2-0 in his MMA career. I think 1-0. And for some reason, he went on Dana White's Contender Series, and he got fast-tracked, dude. 7-0, and he's facing Rener de Ridder, who is a 1-double champ. Yeah, dude, UFC needs to stop fast-tracking their prospects. I made a video about this a couple months ago when Gregory Rodriguez lost to Cannonier, and I was just basically talking about the same thing. The reason we lose so many prospects is because the UFC is so desperate to make a star. Go watch that video if you want to hear more about that, though. And thank you guys for watching. MMA Outpost out.